This is the painting you asked for, sir.
Why is my dick so small? Get this guy out of here! I'm gonna sue you! I'm gonna sue both of you!
Hey, what the hell is this? This is the portrait you asked for. Why is my junk so small? That's the size it was in the photo. Get this guy out of here. I'm suing you. I'm suing both of you. Hey, Satan, I really don't want to deal with this right now. What? Calm down. Come on, Satan. I've been working hard all day. No, you haven't. You've been making stupid memes and just around. It's hilarious. And that is the story of South Park. Today, we're going to analyze and explore this wild ride together. But before we begin, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss out on more exciting stories like this one. And just like that, the internet exploded. The new season of South Park dropped with a bang, showing Donald Trump lying naked in bed with Satan, arguing about memes, masculinity, and power. And Joe Rogan, yes, the Joe Rogan, a man who once supported Trump, couldn't stop laughing. Was this just a cartoon gone too far? Or had South Park just landed a cultural punch Trump couldn't dodge? What you're about to see are all real clips, real quotes, in one cartoon that may have hit the president right where it hurts the most. This is what happens when pop culture stops playing nice, and the most powerful man in the world loses his grip.
Out all day!
You haven't been working, you've been doing your stupid memes and just fucking around.
You know you can't resist this.
I can't even see it.
I'm not in the mood to talk about this right now. A random person commented on my Instagram that I'm on the Epstein list. The Epstein list? We're still talking about that? Well, are you on the list or not? It's just weird that every time this comes up, you say people should just chill. I didn't say people should chill. I said chill out, guys. And just like that, South Park opened its new season with Trump in bed with Satan, dodging Epstein questions like they were just bad Yelp reviews. But behind the gags and the punchlines was a brutal portrait of a thin-skinned, image-obsessed strongman wrestling with demons and brushing off scandal like it was just another meme. Was it comedy? Absolutely. Was it a takedown sharp enough to make even the devil wince? You bet. If that made you laugh, just imagine what comes next. Hit subscribe now, because when South Park is doing God's work, you won't want to miss it. Who braved the wilderness and made the ultimate sacrifice? When temptation burns hottest, who will deliver us from evil? Donald J. Dre. No matter how scorching the sun, he's not afraid to fight for America. South Park just dropped a fake public service announcement, portraying Trump naked and wandering the desert. And for many, that was the final straw. The White House's reaction was immediate and furious. Press Secretary Taylor Rogers told Variety, "This show hasn't been relevant in over 2 decades and is hanging by a thread, recycling lifeless ideas in a desperate bid for attention." When your private parts air on national television and the official response is to call the show lifeless, you know the situation has escalated. But South Park wasn't just mocking Trump. They were launching a full-scale cultural intervention. And this time, they didn't bring the blur tool, just bread and circuses. "I don't want to go back to school," one character mutters, "but I have to. It's part of the lawsuit and the Paramount settlement. The president is suing you." Well, let him do what he wants now. South Park just turned a lawsuit into satire, and a naked man in the desert into a parable about pride, power, and public ridicule.
Had to, because it was part of a lawsuit and the agreement with Paramount. The guy can do whatever he wants now that someone backed down, okay?
Let someone back down, fine. Eat the bread. Eat the bread. You saw what happened to CBS, didn't you? Yeah. Well, guess who owns SEVs? Paramount. Do you really want to be cowards? You need to stop being stupid. We can't even understand you anymore. Shut up. So now Trump is suing Paramount and South Park by staging an animated hostage scene where kids are told to stay quiet and eat bread as part of the legal settlement. The message couldn't be clearer. The president is manipulating corporations to his will, only to be mocked on the very network he just strong-armed. It's a brutal piece of satire, and this time it bites the hand that paid for it. Now, as we all know, Donald Trump doesn't like being mocked, but unfortunately for him, he's not exactly the brightest bulb. So he gets mocked a lot. At this point, Trump has become a walking punchline. But what really shocked viewers was the White House bedroom scene. There he was, overheated, theatrical, climbing into bed with Satan himself, whining, "Come on, Satan, I've worked so hard all day." He flips the blanket open. Satan glances down and says, deadpan, "I don't see anything, it's too small." So the president is humiliated for being petty, both literally and metaphorically. And instead of confronting the satire, his defenders lash out at the animators. But here's the kicker. South Park didn't just target Trump. They went after Paramount too, their own corporate overlords, at the same time. This isn't just comedy. It's a full-blown cultural insurrection. That's freedom of speech, looping around prime time while Satan is still lying in bed waiting for an answer. But if you thought that scene went too far, just wait for Trump in the White House to respond. That's when things truly collapsed. Don't go anywhere. This is when the noise really begins. President Donald Trump is absolutely livid after South Park opened its new season by setting him ablaze in scenes so wild, even Satan had to get involved. The premiere episode of season 27 zeroes in on Trump's crackdown on free speech, portraying him as a president who sues anyone daring to criticize him. He's shown literally in bed with Satan, his body becoming the focal point of mockery. And the official response? The show was dismissed as a third-tier relic. Meanwhile, Trump dodged real questions and instead ranted about Hillary Clinton and Harvard hedge funds. If that's not damage control, it's at least golden material for season 28. The White House is clearly displeased. They issued a statement blasting the show. Yes, the very same show Paramount just paid over $500 million for, as irrelevant, creatively bankrupt, and desperately clinging to shock value for attention. South Park just took a flamethrower to Donald Trump on national television. And the official response? Pretend like the show doesn't matter anymore. Funny, isn't it? Because if it truly didn't matter, the White House wouldn't have rushed to hold a press briefing about it. But instead of actually really addressing the episode, Trump veered off into a rant about Hillary Clinton and Harvard hedge funds, like he'd wandered into someone else's punchline and forgot how jokes work. Truth is, the timing couldn't be worse for the Trump administration. Just as they tried to pretend South Park was irrelevant, the show's creators, Trey Parker and Matt Stone, inked a massive new deal with Paramount, a staggering 50 more episodes and exclusive streaming rights on Paramount+. So while Team Trump insists South Park is outdated, it seems the show is doing exactly what it's always done best: mocking power, provoking the far right, and detonating the internet with precision satire. As Trump attacks freedom of speech, South Park summoned Jesus Christ, roasted Paramount itself, and stirred global outrage, all in under 22 minutes. And while the White House tried to slap a label of desperate on the episode, South Park quietly walked away with $1 billion check. Ironically, the only thing desperately clinging to relevance might not be the cartoon, but the man ranting about it. And in classic South Park style, that's exactly where the chaos begins. Protesters flooded the streets. Jesus descended, not to save souls, but to warn that challenging Trump might get you canceled. He even referenced a mysterious 60-minute settlement deal, hinting at something darker beneath the comedy. But what made this moment explode wasn't who got roasted, it was who laughed first. Not Colbert, not a liberal late-night host. No, Joe Rogan. The same Joe Rogan who once gave Trump a friendly platform was now celebrating South Park's takedown like it was the Super Bowl of satire. Even Joe Rogan couldn't help but laugh. The moment Donald Trump was portrayed as a naked wanderer in the desert, mocked by Satan himself in South Park, it triggered more than just late-night chuckles. It cracked something deeper. You see, when South Park goes after someone, it's not just parody, it's cultural dissection. And when Joe Rogan, a man who once offered Trump a platform, celebrates the satire and proudly admits he raised his sons on the show, it signals a shift far bigger than one cartoon episode. And here's the kicker. While the Trump White House dismissed South Park as desperate and irrelevant, the show quietly secured $1 billion deal with Paramount, locking in 50 new episodes and global streaming rights. Meanwhile, the administration was left scrambling, issuing a statement so bitter it sounded like a teenager's online rant. And just as the MAGA movement tried to ignore the mockery, Joe Rogan, their once beloved voice, chuckled along with the rest of us, marking a quiet but seismic cultural betrayal. But it wasn't just Rogan laughing. Bridget Fedesi, another once right-leaning media figure, noted it best. Just when you think they've hit the bottom of not caring, they manage to not care even harder. That perfectly captures South Park's ruthless genius. They didn't just lampoon Trump, they pushed him into the cultural abyss he once controlled. And in doing so, they also revealed who still fears his wrath and who's ready to laugh out loud. And the moment Joe Rogan laughed, not awkwardly, but proudly, was the real punchline. Because when your former allies stop defending you and start laughing at you, it's not satire anymore. It's a funeral with a laugh track. And what he said next might actually prove South Park's entire point. Don't blink. This is where it gets messy. They came to Matt and Trey and said, "We want you to go full-time South Park," mocking Donald Trump, making him look terrible. And Matt and Trey asked, why? And the answer was basically, "We'll pay you a lot of money." How much is a lot? They said, "We'll give you 30 million. We don't need 30 million. Okay, 50 million. Guys, we're rich. We don't need 50 million. All right then, how about 100 million per year? And Matt's like, honestly, what would I even do with that much money? Then they threw out the final offer, 1.5 billion over 5 years. And Matt and Trey went, wait, seriously? I guess they were like, what do you want from us? And the answer, we want shocking anti-Trump content. That's it. That's the pitch. So yeah, give me $1 billion. Boom. Deal done. So according to some MAGA podcasters, South Park didn't just write jokes. They signed a contract. Apparently mocking Trump is only funny until it's your guy they're mocking. And the going rate for a good piece of satire? $1.5 billion, plus or minus a few moral compromises. Meanwhile, Core got canceled. Why? Because they were spending $40 million a year on anti-Trump commentary. But all this stiff, rigid moralizing, this hypocrisy, it just doesn't work. They keep saying, we need a liberal Joe Rogan. And I bet those liberal billionaires and media execs were thinking, why do people like Joe? He's sharp. He speaks freely. He says what people aren't allowed to say. How do we do that? But clearly, Colbert isn't that show. And Core is boring. Core is blunt. But those South Park guys, they're making $300 million a year on this deal. My God, how does something like this even happen? So let's be clear. South Park, the show that once mocked everyone, is now being called a sellout just because they touched Trump. And what he said next might just prove South Park's point. Don't blink. This is when things get messy. They came to Matt and Trey and said, we want you to do South Park full-time, mock Donald Trump, make him look terrible. And Matt and Trey asked, wait, guy? And the suits responded, we'll pay you a lot of money. How much money? We'll give you 30 million, Matt and Trey. We don't need 30 million. Fine, 50's a million. Guys, we're already rich. Okay, 100 million a year. And honestly, Matt's probably thinking, what the hell would I even do with that much? How about 1.5 billion over 5 years? And Matt and Trey were like, are you serious? I guess the deal went, what do you want from us? We want shocking content that humiliates Trump. And now, apparently, according to some mega podcasters, South Park doesn't even write jokes anymore. They're just under contract. Turns out mocking Trump is only funny until it's your guy. And the current market price for satire? 1.5 billion on give it or take a couple moral lectures. Core got canceled for spending $40 million a year pushing anti-Trump narratives. But this sanctimonious, stiff, moral outrage doesn't seem to land anymore. These people keep saying they want a liberal Joe Rogan. I bet some billionaire liberal execs sat around thinking, why does everyone love Joe? Because he's sharp, he's raw, he says what others won't. How do we do that? Well, Colbert wasn't the answer. Core was preachy and boring, clearly. The South Park guys, though, they're reportedly raking in $300 million a year on this deal. I mean, wow, how does something like that even happen? So let's make this clear. South Park, a show that once mocked everyone equally, is now being accused of selling out simply because they took shots at Trump. That's the price of free speech. Wandering through prime time while Satan's still in bed, waiting for an answer. But if you thought that scene went too far, wait till you see how Trump and the White House respond. This isn't just backlash, it's a breakdown. Don't go anywhere. This is where things get loud. President Donald Trump is in full meltdown mode after South Park kicked off its new season by incinerating him with scenes so outrageous that even Satan had to get involved. The premiere of season 27 centers around Trump crushing free speech, suing anyone who dares to criticize him. He's literally in bed with Satan. His body is the punchline. The official response calling the show a fourth-rate relic. Meanwhile, Trump dodges questions and rambles about Clinton and Harvard hedge funds. If that's not damage control, it's at least perfect fuel for season 28. The White House is clearly not laughing. They've issued a statement claiming the show, which Paramount just poured $1.5 billion into, is creatively bankrupt and clinging to relevance by mocking the irrelevant. Tim Pool acts like Matt and Trey sold out for $1 billion deal, but those very jokes are aimed at their own boss at Paramount. If that's selling out, it's the weirdest corporate sponsorship in history. So the episode isn't just attacking Trump, it's aiming straight at Paramount itself over the merger that just got approved and the fallout surrounding Core. The merger got greenlit today. The episode aired last night, meaning on the very eve of that approval, South Park dropped the bomb. Did you see what happened to CBS? Guess who owns CBS? Paramount. You really want to end up like Cobra? Stop being stupid. We don't get you. Shut up. We're handing over the presidency and lawsuits and bribery to someone else, so he can do whatever he wants to whoever he wants. That's the president, bro. All of you. Okay, maybe I already know the answer, but seriously, who is South Park talking to here? Only South Park can roast the president and their own employer in the same episode. While MAGA screams sellout, the show just torched its own network's merger on national television. If that's selling out, someone should tell Paramount they just paid $1.5 billion for a slap in the face. People keep texting me, don't watch the new South Park, it'll drive you mad. And I laugh saying, hell, it's been at least 20 minutes since I last lost my mind. So I turned it on. And yeah, it made me mad. South Park isn't funny anymore. And I'm not even someone who craves subtlety or nuance. It's not just not funny, it's vicious, it's hyper-aware. It doesn't sound like satire anymore. It sounds like targeted outrage. When satire stops being funny the moment it hits too close to home, maybe it was never about humor to begin with. Look at Google Trends. Trump wants this story gone. He hates South Park, that's obvious. But America can't look away. Searches for South Park are up 670% from last week. It's the #1 search alongside Donald Trump this afternoon. And let's not forget, the last person they put in bed with Satan was Saddam Hussein. Pretty sure Trump doesn't want that comparison. But right now, those are the top two, Trump and South Park. Trump wants it buried, but the internet says, replay. South Park didn't just mock him, they broke the charts doing it. A 670% spike in interest. Top Google Trends. This isn't the legacy Trump wanted, unless the plan was to trend next to Satan. But they're standing up to Trump and risking a lot. Who knows what kind of clause is buried in that billion-dollar Paramount deal? What South Park just pulled off wasn't just a joke. It was an act of satire at full volume. Bold, irreverent, and fearless. In one jaw-dropping episode, they didn't just mock Trump, they shelved him next to Saddam Hussein. Yes, that's Saddam. That's not just comedy. That's cultural combat. And it's no surprise Google Trends went wild. And people warned me, don't watch the new South Park, they texted. It'll make you furious. And I thought, hell yeah. It's been a good 20 minutes since I last got angry. So I clicked play. And yeah, it got me fired up. But not because it was bad, because it was sharp, because it was brave, because it was true. This wasn't South Park going too far. This was South Park, pure, unfiltered, and back in form. Remember the woodland critters? Remember when Mr. Garrison stuffed Paris Hilton somewhere very, very wrong? That was 2 decades ago. South Park has never held back. Not then, not now, not for the left, not for the right, not even for make-believe. So when MAGA fans start clutching their pearls because now their guy's in the fire, let's be clear, it's not censorship. It's consistency. South Park always takes aim at power. No matter the face, that's why it matters. That's why this episode isn't just entertainment. It's relevance. It's a reminder that satire is still alive, that it must be alive. Because in a free society, you can mock the most powerful man in the country in prime time, and he can't do a damn thing about it. That's not a glitch. That's the point. God bless South Park. Seriously, they didn't just poke the bear, they slapped it with a history book and laughed in its face. That's not just comedy, that's democracy. That's what freedom of expression looks like. Messy, raw, and necessary. So here's the question I'll leave you with. Do you think satire still protects freedom? Or is it being warped by those who laugh at evil instead of exposing it? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because in the end, when the most powerful man can be mocked on television and still walk away powerless, that's not weakness, that's strength. That's exactly the point. The brilliance lies in how Trump, once the master manipulator of media, has now lost control of the very stage he once dominated. South Park didn't just mock him, they reclaimed a right we sometimes forget we have, the freedom to laugh at power without needing permission. In an age teetering toward authoritarianism, that's not just humor, it's resistance. You're seeing people getting threatened. You're seeing corruption unfold in broad daylight. I mean, like you said earlier, Trump's former defense lawyer negotiating a deal with Ghislaine Maxwell? That's beyond absurd, but that's the nature of a society that's tipping into authoritarianism. And you know what? You don't have to look far to find folks saying, I might just leave the country. And now I'm not even sure if I should delete the Trump criticisms off my phone. That's where we are. 15 years ago, we might have joked about something like that, laughed it off as far-fetched. But today, that fear is real. For a man who once commanded the media like a magician, pulling rabbits out of hats, getting dragged by South Park might be the ultimate disappearing act. This isn't just a cartoon anymore. It's cultural rebellion. When even satire strips you of control over your image, that's no longer comedy. That's poetic justice. Donald Trump may loathe being mocked, but let's be honest, he invites it. Because beneath the arrogance is a man drowning in delusion and pain, and somehow this moment feels like it came from us. A collective reckoning. Yeah, I don't even know who made this happen. But bless them, did Trump just become a joke? Joe's, the satire he couldn't silence. That's the twist, isn't it? The man who once thrived on manipulating the media is now being outplayed by it. What we're witnessing isn't just satire, it's a seismic cultural reckoning. When South Park took on Trump, they didn't just mock him, they reclaimed something we had almost forgotten, the freedom to laugh at power without asking for permission. It's no longer about party lines. It's about watching a man who built his empire on spectacle slowly unravel under the weight of his own absurdity. This is authoritarianism in slow motion. People feel threatened. Corruption is out in the open. You mentioned earlier that Trump's former defense attorney is negotiating a deal with Ghislaine Maxwell. Absurd? Yes. But that's what living under a failing autocracy looks like, where the unthinkable becomes daily news. There's a moment now, a hesitation. Should we delete our Trump criticisms from our phones? That used to be a dystopian joke. Now it's a valid concern. And then came South Park. They didn't just clown him, they exposed the hollow performance he'd mastered for years. Whether it was confusing building costs on live TV or trying to humiliate Jerome Powell with a pocket document, only to be corrected on the spot, Trump keeps feeding the satire machine. The real irony? The man who tried to rule culture by force has become its punchline. From Joe Rogan's roaring laughter to MAGA's slow collapse, from billion-dollar conspiracy memes to Saddam-style parodies, this isn't just comedy, it's cultural purge. And South Park didn't create the chaos. They held up a mirror. What stared back wasn't a former president, but a caricature, a relic, a man once feared and now laughed at. This isn't about left or right anymore. It's about what happens when satire collides with unchecked power, and satire wins. Maybe the real question isn't why Trump is mocked. It's, why was it ever so easy? This video contains commentary from Joe Rogan and scenes from South Park, reflecting public responses and verified public statements. All footage is used under YouTube's fair use policy for commentary, analysis, and public interest. If you enjoy bold stories, deep analysis, and fearless commentary on America's most powerful figures, don't forget to subscribe to American Adventure. Every week, we dive into the headlines, decode the drama, and bring you the real stories behind the spectacle. Hit that subscribe button, turn on the bell, and be part of the journey where truth meets storytelling.